Ankit here, you're watching StudyIQ IS English. Today is 15th of September and I took this class at 4 p.m. because today I had to come to Gurgaon for some reason, which we'll know at 7 p.m. right? Now let us get started with our today's discussion with the important articles from our favorite, the Indian Express newspaper. And as you can see, we'll start off our today's discussion by understanding the UN resolution on Israel and Palestine. Now the reason why we are covering this because you need to understand what is India's official position on the matter, right? Now, whenever in the interview or otherwise, whenever someone is going to put up a question, what do you think about Israel and Palestine? You don't have to tell them your biases or you don't have to tell them your opinion. Rather, as a future bureaucrat, rather as an aspiring technocrat, what you'll have to highlight is India's official position on this matter. And can anyone tell me what is India's official position on Israel-Palestine matter or the issue? If you don't, you will find this exactly in our today's session. Now we'll find out much more about the UN resolution and also we'll try to cover what is this body known as UN General Assembly. Now this is relevant from GS paper 2 that it deals with a sensitive matter of international relations. Okay, so our first article is relating to that. Second article is relating to environment because we are going to understand a very important issue for the India's environmental ecology. That is the translocation of tigers. Now you need to understand across the world, India is the country which has the highest population of tigers. And this is because of many reasons. The first reason is we as a country, we had tried to preserve the population of tigers by allowing them to breed in different areas and that to natural breeding. And because of the measures that India has taken under the NTCA, National Tiger Conservation Authority, which is in charge of a project called as Project Tiger, we have been able to increase the population of tigers. And one of this is also the translocation of tigers from an area where their population might be saturated to another area where the population of tigers is somewhat less as per the ecological factors. So we'll cover this issue which is relevant from GS paper 3 perspective, and these type of questions frequently reappear in the exam, especially prelims examination. So which are the protected areas from where we are relocating the tigers to the protected area where we are relocating the tigers? All these three becomes important from your exams. In the third article, we are going to understand how has the warfare in India transformed in the recent times. Now this kind of a question has also appeared in the UPSC prelims, which I'll show you today, is that how the invaders in the country brought newer technologies with them so as to they were able to fight the war more efficiently, in a more dominating manner, and this allowed them to control larger territories in India. Yes, this is a bad part in Indian history, but you also need to know that this is something very important if you have to study history without emotion. And as an exam or as an exam aspirant, you should be able to do that. We'll do that exactly in the third article, where I'll tell you how the warfare in India, just because of the use of arms and ammunition, has changed in the medieval as well as modern times. In the fourth article, which is an article left out of Saturday, we are going to understand a very important historical functionary who dealt with issues like untouchability. That was Sri Narayana Guru, who is famously known for an organization known as SNDP, Sri Narayana Dharma Paripalana. So we are going to understand much more about him, what kind of teaching he what kind of a teaching he propagated, what kind of ideals he had, and how was he able to counter social evils in a manner. So this is relevant from GS paper 1 perspective, particularly from the modern history. And another, talking about modern history, we are going to find out much more about a very famous personality in India. At the outset, he was Gandhian. That was Acharya Vinoba Bhave. So what was his role in India's independence? And even after that, you will find out in our today's discussion. So the last two articles are important from GS paper 1 perspective. And as you can see, 3 articles today are relevant from history perspective, right? So we'll having today's discussion is kind of a different as per the usual discussion, because most of the articles that appear in the newspaper are relating to environment, polity, economy, but today we are covering a majority of articles that is from history section. Okay, so let us begin our today's discussion. You know the drill. The notes of this session will be available on the Telegram channel known as ATS Live, so you can go to this Telegram channel and download the notes. Let me see the comments, all those who have commented. Let me see. Let me change the Yes, now I'm able to see your comments properly. Yashi, good morning. Amar, hi. Good evening, sorry. I'm used to Rupa, Yashi, Amar, Benzir, and Mamim, Arya, Gagan, Kanchan, Santwana, sorry. Babe, okay, Babe, good evening, sir. Amar, you're an emotionless person. Good. That's how you should be. At least because people won't be able to use your emotions against you. So let us start our today's discussion with this first article. As you can see, this article appeared in yesterday's newspaper, but since yesterday we don't have a session, so I thought this article shouldn't be left behind. Now this article says UN overwhelmingly has backed two-state solution to Israel-Palestinian conflict. So first of all, what kind of a role can UN play in such kind of a conflict? We'll figure out that. What is a two-state solution? We'll figure out. Why? Because this is India's official position towards the matter of Israel and Palestine. That is, India subscribed to what is known as two-state solution. So what does two-state solution means? That we'll find out. And we'll also try to solve many of the questions that have appeared very similar to the kind of article that we have done in the UPSC prelims. So there are total 4 questions that I've picked up. All of them are PYQs and we'll try to solve it, but after what we'll discuss in our today's discussion. Now let us begin this by understanding the context. This says that India voted in favor of UN General Assembly resolution which was introduced by France, and it has endorsed the New York Declaration on Peaceful Settlement of Palestinian issue and the two-state solution. So you can understand what is important from our perspective: United Nations General Assembly, New York Declaration, and the two-state solution. So these 3 facts we are going to cover in our today's discussion before solving the PYQs. First, let us start by understanding what is the New York Declaration. Now, the New York Declaration is a peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine that was circulated at the high-level UN conferences in summer 2025, which is co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia. So these are the 2 countries who have brought this resolution in the floor of the House, and resolutions are not having a force of the law. So they have a moral value. So whenever most of the countries who will vote for this resolution in the United Nations General Assembly, it will show you what the countries or the other countries who have some interest in the conflict want this solution to be like. Okay, so that is why India voting for this resolution means India agrees with this, or whatever there is in the resolution, India agrees with it. Okay. Now what you'll need to understand is what is included in the resolution. Why India agrees with it is the next part. It commits that the international community wants the war in Gaza to end, because obviously the war in Gaza can be seen as a natural retribution on the part of Israel, because it was after about 1,400 people, they were killed in cold blood by the Palestinian terrorists. But after this war, what we have seen, Israel has conducted destruction in the territory of Gaza, and this conflict is not just related to Gaza or not just limited to Gaza. It has spread across the areas of Middle East. Now Israel has even bombed Qatar, which I have done a separate video. If you haven't watched this, please watch that video after the session ends. Okay. Similarly, countries want to achieve a peaceful and lasting settlement of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So first of all, the countries who have voted for this resolution, they just don't want this war to end. They want that future war shouldn't happen on this issue. Similarly, they want to implement what is known as two-state settlement, that is Israel and Palestine living side by side. Living side by side in peace and security. Similarly, they also want to ensure self-determination for the Palestinians while they guarantee peace and security for the Israelis. Now, what is two-state solution becomes important, obviously. Can anyone tell me what is self-determination for Palestinians? Any idea? Rock Dharma, Khyati, Reshma and Vanshika, good morning, good evening everyone. Sorry, I usually take this session in the evening, so I have a tendency to say good morning, so excuse me for that. How many of you have voted for this? How many of you have hit like button? Any idea what is self-determination for Palestinians? Now, in the meantime, let us understand what is a two-state solution. Two-state solution is an internationally backed proposal or an idea which is aimed to resolve the Israel-Palestinian conflict by creation of two sovereign states. Anybody knows, don't worry, I will tell you. Anybody knows how Israel emerged in this location? Now, earlier there was no state of Israel. Israel or state of Israel came into being in 1948. So many Arabs or the native people of this region, they feel that Israel has been formed unlawfully. So because of that, they claim that the origin of Israel or the existence of Israel should be wiped off from the earth. But this is incorrect. Similarly, if Israel wants that there shouldn't be any state of Palestine, that is also incorrect. So what is the middle path forward? The middle path forward is that both countries should coexist peacefully, and that is called as two-state solution. That there should be an existing state of Israel where it is located. Similarly, in and around the region where there is a conflict going on, it should be made into a separate sovereign country called as Palestine, which should include territories of West Bank, Gaza Strip, and the East Jerusalem as the capital. Now you need to understand the city of Jerusalem, which is located in this area. It is famous not just for Jewish religion, but it is also famous for Christianity as well as Islamic religion. So all these three religious people, they claim their origins towards Jerusalem. Now what this two-state solution means is that Jerusalem would serve as a capital for both independent state of Israel as well as independent state of Palestine. But the western part of Jerusalem would belong to Israel, and the eastern part of Jerusalem towards the West Bank territory would belong to Palestine. You'd get it clear after you see the map. So this is the region of Israel, which is currently you can see in the color of orange or saffron, right? There is a reason for it. Now the areas in green that you can see, this part and this part, this would constitute what is known as a sovereign state of Palestine. So this would include West Bank, this would include Gaza, and Jerusalem here would serve as a capital for both countries. The western part would be serving as a capital of Israel. The eastern part would be serving as a capital of West Bank. Understood? So this is what a two-state solution means. Now you need to understand there is a very important body of water known as Mediterranean Sea. So do you think the country of Palestine, when it comes to fruition, would have borders to Mediterranean Sea? The answer is yes, because Gaza Strip here shares its borders with Mediterranean Sea. Similarly, Egypt does it, Israel does it. Does Jordan share borders with Mediterranean Sea? No. Similarly, country on the north, that is Lebanon, famous for a very famous delicacy. Can you name the delicacy famous of Lebanon, which is even available in India, although in Indianized form? What is the food item famous of Lebanon? Can anyone tell me that? How many of you have heard what shawarma is? Have you heard shawarma? Have you had shawarma? Shawarma is a Middle Eastern food which can be traced to Lebanon, right? So what chole bhature, what dosa is for India? Shawarma is for Lebanon, okay? Now let us talk about the United Nations General Assembly. Now United Nations General Assembly is the main deliberative, policy making and a representative organ of the United Nations. Now there are in total 6 organs of United Nations. It includes International Court of Justice, it includes United Nations General Assembly, it includes United Nations Security Council and 3 other bodies. So in all there are 6 organs of United Nations. The main deliberative, policy making and representative organ is the United Nations General Assembly. And as the name suggests, General Assembly, it includes all the members of UN, that is 193 members of UN. And when it comes to voting in United Nations General Assembly, each and every member, 193 of them, regardless of their size and economy, size of their military, all of them have 1 vote. Now, can you tell me how many are the members of United Nations Security Council? Do you have an idea? In United Nations Security Council, there are 5 permanent members known as P5. These are US, UK, Russia, China as well as France. And there are 10 non-permanent members in United Nations Security Council who are appointed on a 2-year basis, right? So there are in total 15 members, 5 are permanent and 10 are non-permanent. Now United Nations Security Council has an power to implement proposals, whereas the United Nations General Assembly has the power to bring proposals. Understand the difference. So taking a military action when it comes to United Nations, that resolution needs to be passed in United Nations Security Council. United Nations General Assembly can recommend it, but when it comes to power of implementation, this power is vested with another organ, that is United Nations Security Council. So the next question you might be thinking, what's the point of having a United Nations General Assembly? There is a point. Let me tell you that. First is that it discusses and makes recommendations on international peace and security. It also allows for admission of new members and also deals with budgetary matters. So you can understand United Nations General Assembly as a parliament, or United Nations Security Council is like a government or like the executive. Understand, I hope. Although this is not technically correct, but you can understand why I'm trying to use this example. Similarly, it elects non-permanent members to the United Nations Security Council, members of another UN bodies, and also appoints the Secretary General. Secretary General is the head of United Nations. Similarly, it adopts declaration, conventions, and resolutions. All of them are non-binding in nature, but they are politically and nominally significant. They have a force of morals. Understand? Now the sessions of United Nations General Assembly, it happens annually, that is in New York. Now it happens between September to December. There was this expectation that Prime Minister Modi would visit New York this time, but he did not go. India this time in United Nations General Assembly will be represented by the Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar. Similarly, it can also hold a special and emergency session whenever there is a need for that session. So whenever we hit Pakistan, you must realize Pakistan always demands for an emergency session of United Nations General Assembly. Do you think it matters for India? You got this answer. Now let us talk about the powers and limitations of United Nations General Assembly. It brings resolutions which are not legally binding. So unlike United Nations Security Council, it has less powers, but it carries a moral, diplomatic and political directive, or moral, diplomatic and political weight. Similarly, it can influence global opinion and set international norms. So this is the part and parcel of United Nations General Assembly. Now the structure of UNGA is that the president of UNGA is elected annually on a rotating basis. Similarly, it has six main committees: committees on disarmament, economic and financial committee, humanitarian committee, special political, administrative and budgetary committee, as well as a legal committee, right? So these are 6 committees that you'll have to remember. Now let's try to solve the practice question that belongs to this topic. Which one of the following Southwest Asian countries do not open in the Mediterranean Sea? Okay, Rock Dharma, if you have any doubt, you obviously can ask me, right? What is your real name, Rock Dharma? Well, Syria, Lebanon and Israel opens out in Mediterranean Sea. Jordan does not. Okay? Yes, Kanchan, all of you are right. Sorry, this question. Mediterranean Sea is a border of which country out of the 4? How many of you realize that attending these kind of sessions on a daily basis, you will be able to solve PYQs? Now we already know Jordan does not share its boundary with Mediterranean Sea. So first and third option automatically would be correct. So what is the determinant factor here? Out of Syria and Iraq, which of them share the boundaries with Mediterranean Sea? Syria does, Iraq does not, and Lebanon obviously does. So option C is your right answer. Yes, all of you are right. Reshma, Yashi, Kanchan, Santana, Khyati, Gagan, correct. Now this is an easy question. I don't think so you should have difficulties in solving this question. Well, Rock Dharma, attend these sessions on a daily basis. And if you want, you can take coachings from somewhere. StudyIQ has very good courses that are available. Wait for 7 PM, you'll know which kind of courses you can take, okay? Yes, this leads to, or this is matters pertaining to Israel and Palestine. So obviously option B is your right answer. Now this question. Region along the eastern Mediterranean shores. Is it correct? Anyone else? How many of you have heard of this terrorist organization? Islamic State or ISIS? Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Another name of this terrorist organization is ISIL, International Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. Levant is the region. Give me a second. This entire region, let me change the pen color. This entire region on the eastern shores of Mediterranean is called as Levant. Okay? So that is your right answer. Now moving to the next article. This article is also from Saturday. We were unable to solve this article. Center clears translocation of tigers from Tadoba, Pench to Sayadri Reserve. So can you tell me what is important in this article? Anyone? Anyone? What should we discuss from this article? Please help me, I'm confused. What should we discuss from this article? Any idea, friends, students? Yes, these 3 tiger reserves are important, but don't you think why this translocation of tigers is happening is also important? So we'll discuss everything, don't worry. The Union Environment Ministry has approved capture and translocation of 8 tigers from Tadoba Andhari and Pench tiger reserves to another tiger reserve also located in Maharashtra known as Sayadri Tiger Reserve. So all these 3 tiger reserves that we are going to discuss today, all of them are located in the beautiful state of Maharashtra. And as you can see, Pench Tiger Reserve is located north of Nagpur, bordering the state of Madhya Pradesh. On the other hand, as you move southward, there is Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve. So from these 2 tiger reserves, 8 tigers will be picked up and they will be translocated to another tiger reserve located in the southern part of Maharashtra, very close to the Karnataka border, known as Sayadri Tiger Reserve. So these are the 3 important tiger reserves that we are going to understand. Now if you look at this article, first we'll discuss Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve, from where the tigers have been picked up. It is located in Chandrapur district of Maharashtra. It has a size of more than 1700 square kilometers and it was declared as a tiger reserve in 1995, merging the Tadoba National Park and Andhari Wildlife Sanctuary. What is the thing that you need to remember about this tiger reserve is that it is oldest and largest national park in Maharashtra, rich in teak forest and famous for frequent tiger sightings. So suppose if you want to visit a particular tiger reserve on your special occasions, you should consider visiting Tadoba Andhari, because then you'd be, or there is a chance that you will spot the tigers. Or if you visit other less famous tiger reserves or the tiger reserves where there are less number of tigers, there's a chance that you might not even see the tigers, which happens quite frequently, right? Now, any idea what is the teak wood used for? Teak wood is very in high demand in India. Any idea why is it used for, teak wood? Any idea, students? Yes, for furniture for decoration, teak wood in India is in very high demand. So most of the furnitures that you'll see which is of good quality, they are made from teak wood. So after this session, go and talk to your fathers and ask them, do you have teak furniture in your house? He will tell you for sure. Then let us discuss Pench Tiger Reserve. It is located in Nagpur and Chandrapur district, adjoining the Madhya Pradesh's Pench Reserve. It is of somewhat lesser size as compared to Tadobandhari, of about 1700 square kilometers. It was declared as a tiger reserve in 1999 after Pench National Park and the adjoining sanctuaries, they were combined. It features, or the feature of this Pench Tiger Reserve, that it is named after a river known as Pench, and it forms a larger tiger habitat which is spread across Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. Okay, Kanchan, rich person Kanchan you are. जोर जोर से ऐसे information नहीं देते हैं public platform पे. What if I come to your farm and steal all those teak woods? Teak woods are very remunerative. Now, any idea which state in India has the highest amount of tigers? My dear students, you can't use it without permission, Kanchan, na? But a thief can steal it without permission. Do you think thief would come to your permission? MP, right. MP has the highest amount of tigers. Now, we are trying to conserve tiger population. So there is also a need that the tiger should be allowed to move freely. So don't you think if you combine one or two protected areas, it would give the tigers a larger area to seek prey? It would give tigers a larger area where they can project their power. Don't you think it would be necessary? That is why you're combining these kind of protected areas. Now, the most important protected area from our discussions perspective is the Sahyadri Tiger Reserve, which is located in the southern part of Maharashtra in Kolhapur, Satara, Sangli, as well as Ratnagiri district. Any idea what are these districts famous for? Ratnagiri is famous for a very famous kind of mango, Alfonso. Satara was the capital of Maratha Confederacy. Kolhapur is famous for Kolhapuri chappals. It is famous for Kolhapuri chicken. Right? Yes. Which is the kind of Ratnagiri mango? Alfonso, also known as Hapus. Yes. Now the next discussion on this, why are we translocating the tigers? First of all, the amount of tigers located in Sahyadri Reserve are less. Despite having rich forest vegetation, Sahyadri Tiger Reserve has a very small and transient tiger population. Any idea what transient tiger population means? Any idea? And only recently, few male tigers have been photographed in the area. So do you think only by the presence of male tigers, the population of the tigers would increase? What do you need? You need a population of male and female tigers. So then only they would reproduce, leading to increase in populations of tiger. And when there is a transient tiger population, you means the tigers come there, but they don't stay there for long. So what is the chance that this area, which has great vegetation, which can support larger amount of tigers, don't you think we should allow for more tigers to be kept in this area so that they can reproduce, multiply in number? And this is what the government wants. Government wants to revive the population of tiger in Sahyadri Tiger Reserve. The translocation is a part of long-term strategy of the government to recover the population of tigers in this area, and it seeks to establish a breeding population in Sahyadri which tigers never have naturally colonized. Yes, you need the ratio of male and female tigers to be somewhat at parity. Okay. Similarly, the studies conducted by Wildlife Institute of Institute of India and forest officials of Maharashtra Forest Department, they have confirmed that Sahyadri has the capacity to host at least 20 or more tigers due to its prey base and large forest cover. Now, what do you need to survive? First of all, you need food and you need shelter. Don't you think tigers have both of them in this area? So that is why it can support a large portion of tigers. Similarly, this area is also of very importance as far as ecological parameters are concerned. First of all, reviving tigers here would help in maintaining connectivity of habitats. I told you, tigers are by nature a dominant species, so they need a larger areas to stay and project their power. So that is why what government is doing is trying to increase the connectivity between the protected areas, including Goa and Karnataka, so the tigers can move freely from Madhya Pradesh in the north to Maharashtra and eventually to Goa and Karnataka. And Sahyadri will also become a part of catchment area of major rivers like Koyna and Varna, which is crucial for livelihoods. Understand? Yes. So this is why you need a large portion of tigers. Now let's see how many of you are able to solve this question. This is a question very similar to the one that appeared in 2017. Sorry, not lions. It should be tigers. Not lions. The question was on lions. Yes, Reshma, you're right. The question wants you to ask, they will be located to which of the following sites? Sahyadri Tiger Reserve. Now, this is a very interesting article. I'm surprised that it did not appear in the newspaper. This I've taken from the website of Indian Express. Now, this article basically talks about how Afghan and Turkish invaders transformed how warfare in India happens. Yes, Benjir, you're right. Yes, Reshma, you're right. Now, if you look at the context, from 10th century onwards, horse breeding groups from Afghanistan and Central Asia, they invaded India. And with them, they brought not just their cultural and religious changes to India, but they also transformed how military technologies have evolved in India. First of all, from this context, you need to understand that horse is not native to India. And also, since time immemorial, Indians have been more of pacifist in nature. They have been more oriented towards ethics, morals, and respect. And sometimes you understand these qualities or these values are very desirable in nature. But when you have to protect your motherland, when you have to fight against invaders, these qualities can come in way of you defending your territories, and this has actually happened with India. So this kind of a learning is very essential when you have to understand history, because only when we understand history, we'll be able to understand our mistakes and we can also decide not to commit them in the future, right? So this is new India in 21st century where we are living in 2025, and you can realize slowly by slowly our orientation towards how we perceive our national security threats have changed. Similarly, our outlook in defending our territories have also changed. Case in point, our aggression against Pakistan in the past decade. After the Uri military base attack, we conducted surgical strike. After the attack on CRPF convoy in Pulwama, we bombed the Balakot terror camp in POK. sorry, not in POK, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And after Pahalgam, I don't need to tell you what happened. We conducted Operation Sindoor, where we fired almost 50 BrahMos missiles on not just the terrorist camps, but also the installations of Pakistani defense forces. So this is highlighting that slowly by slowly, we are being or becoming more realistic, more strategic. But how can we become more realistic and more strategic? By learning from our mistakes in the past. And that is why I picked up this article, because you guys in the future would be future bureaucrats, who would be future decision makers, and please understand, this kind of a learning would change your outlook. Okay, so these innovations have not just reshaped warfare in India for centuries, but it has also paved the way for Britishers to seek their dominance on the motherland for as much as 190 years. So we must understand some mistakes that we have committed in the past, right? Now, first of all, let us understand the contrast in military culture. Now, when these invaders started to coming into India, at that time, the dynasty or the kind of people who were in power were called as Rajputs. Majorly, they were located in the northern part of the country and western part of the country in the state of Rajasthan. So they valued the values like strength, which can be called as Shakti, or they also valued devotion. So even today, the Rajputana rifles, they have a motto of Veer Bhogya Vasundhara, that the victory comes to the brave, right? So this highlights their Shakti and strength. Can anyone tell me the war cry of Rajputana rifles, which is a unit in Indian Army? Now, these values made Rajputs glorify death over dishonor. So for them, death was acceptable, but dishonor in any case was not acceptable. So even when they were fighting the right way. They were not going to attack an enemy from behind. They were going to fight them in front. But at this junction of time, you understand, everything is fair in war. So whenever you're fighting the war, your only aim is to defeat your enemy by whatever means you can get. Right or wrong means, provided the end, that is the end result you're wanting, is victory, right? Similarly, they considered tactical trickery or yukti as a dishonorable move. So they glorified open combat, and whenever the defeat was given or handed to them in a rightful cause, they were noble enough to accept that. So for Rajputs, what you have to understand, they at any cost or at any given of time, they won't consider dishonor, right? So this in a way is a very desirable trait, but can sometimes be very detrimental. Also, let us understand what Afghans and Turks used to think. They were adapted to survival because obviously the areas where they were living was very difficult areas, which had less amount of resources and a lot of amount of invaders. So their conditioning was done that they were adapted to more of a survival kind. So they would do anything necessary to preserve themselves. So therefore, they relied on horse-based strategies and tactical maneuvers, and they emphasized more on clever moves rather than the values of glorification or strength or bhakti. So you can understand these two are two line of thoughts. Both of them are correct and none of them are wrong. But we also have to understand where we lag behind from them in kind of mindset that we don't commit this mistake in the future, right? Similarly, there are certain kind of innovations that Afghans and Turks brought to India. Let us understand what are kind of innovations. First innovation is known as Parthian shot. You'd be very understanding this kind of a shot. How many of you have seen movies where there is a mounted archer on a horse, and whenever they are moving away from their target, they turn back and hit them with a bow and arrow, right? Now you need to understand this was very common when it came to riders of Afghanistani and Turkish in nature. So they were mounted archer where they were riding away, they twisted their backs to shoot at their pursuers. So they were adopting this, that is the Afghans and Turks. But on the other hand, Rajputs saw this as an act of cowardice. Since they were retreating, implied that it was kind of a dishonor. So Indians that were Rajputs, they were not practicing this art. So it invariably gave advantage to the Central Asians, who saw this as a brilliant strategy to ambush tactically developed militaries like the Rajputs. Similarly, they were very efficient when it comes to their logistics. Now, whenever you're fighting a war, you need steady supply of food, you need steady supply of medicines, and you also need steady supply of arms and ammunitions. And the weapons that you are going to fight. Now, Mahmud Ghaznavi, who campaigned in Somnath and plundered our beautiful temple more than once, he was involved in 30,000, and his cavalcade included 30,000 camels who were solely responsible for carrying food, fodder and water, which enabled these armies to fight in desert routes and travel through desert routes and conduct surprise attacks on their enemies. So this gave them a tactical advantage. First of all, Afghans and Turks, they were using a kind of military strategy that was not adopted by Indians. Similarly, they were having mastery over how to ensure steady supply of logistics, arms, ammunition, food, water, etc. Right? Similarly, military innovations of Afghan and Turks also accounted for encirclement, that in their language was called as negre. Now, Mongol hunting techniques, it included cavalries who used to surround their enemies like hunters trapping their prey. Similarly, they also used sage warfare tools which were introduced in India by the Khiljis, Alauddin Khilji, Bakhtiar Khilji, if you can recall your medieval lectures. Now, they used to use catapults. Anyone having an idea what catapults are? How many of you have seen this in movies? What is it used for? For throwing dangerous elements so as to destroy your fortress or to destroy your fortification, right? So these were catapults that were first used in India by the Khiljis, and it hurled projectile on the fort walls. How many of you use or understand that there are many Rajputana forts in the state of Rajasthan, and forts are meant to protect from enemy invaders, and forts have very fortified walls. So to destroy these walls, the enemies used to use catapults. Similarly, they also had mounds which were raised platforms for approaching the fortress. Now, fortress is generally considered or constructed on a top of a mountain, which gives you an advantage of elevation. So enemies, to counter this advantage of elevation that the Rajputs had, they used to use mounds so as to protect them from the archers and spears that used to come from the fort side, and it also used to protect their engines and soldiers. They also deployed war elephants that were used as a battering rams or to destroy the fortified territories so as to enter into the fortress of their enemies, right? Amar, abhi bhi Angry Bird khelte ho tum? This is how you utilize your time. Now let us understand what were the military innovations brought by Mughals. First of all, Mughals introduced cannons in India. These rendered elephants obsolete. Now, when you had cannons, why would you use elephants to destroy a fortified wall? You can straight away fire a cannon, and this introduced a new artillery-centric warfare away from animal-centric warfare. Any idea what are the disadvantages of using animals? First of all, animals need food. Animals are moody. Cannons are neither one of them. So this actually upgrades your technology, and at the same time it obviates the need of disadvantages that you face with use of animals in the warfare. Now, if you don't know what is a cannon, this is basically this. Okay. Similarly, they also had what is known as mobile capital, known as Urdu-e-Mualla. What was it? It was Emperor's cavalcade, which was traveling with camp, which was functioning as a mobile capital for the emperor. It used to employ as many as 1 lakh people. So you can understand 1 lakh people were moving together with the emperor. Give me a second. I will reattach my mic. Okay. Now, this projected imperial power raised pomp and pomp and also created pageantry across the region. So it was kind of a soft power that was traveling with the emperor. Similarly, there were later developments that happened. First of all, there was Zamburak, which was a small swivel cannon mounted on camels for mobility, and Indian resistant to firearms. Now you need to understand, Indians also had firearms, but the kind of firearms they used to do was very old in nature. For example, Indians used to employ old matchlocks which were clumsy and hard to use on horsebacks. Old matchlocks is the kind of a gun where you have to manually insert the gunpowder and you have to light it with a match during the warfare. You can understand how difficult it would be. Old matchlocks are this, right? And what the later introduced or Britishers introduced, they introduced a flintlock muskets which were faster, more reliable and easier to use, and it created disciplined infantry formations, it overpowered cavalry dominated armies, and it marked the end of 800 years of cavalry supremacy in India. Now there was a question, did Mughals introduce for the first time gunpowder in India? The answer is no. What Mughals introduced in India was artillery. What Britishers used in India, they used automatic or self-loading rifles. Okay, these are the kind of muskets that the Britishers use, and this had advantage over the old kind of guns that Indian emperors used to employ. Now you can understand the differences between the older matchlocks and newer flintlocks. These were slow to reload, difficult to use in bad weather because you have to light the gunpowder yourself using a matchstick, and these were dangerous to carry because you had to load them in the weapon site or in the warfield only. You can't bring them loaded from your homes, which you can do so with respect to flintstones. So these were better kind of guns. Now what this teaches us? This teaches us that each phase of Indian history has showed us how technological changes can help you stay in touch with the defense forces, and not only battlefield but also cultural attitudes. I told you Indians have been for a greater period of time pacifist in nature, and this is why you won't hear an Indian emperor invading someone else's territory. You have always heard someone else is invading our motherland, and Rajputs, they equated strategy with dishonor, whereas on the other hand Central Asia saw this as a method of their survival. So when it comes of battling between dishonor and survival, survival obviously wins. Similarly, Mughals projected pomp through mobile capitals. They used to splurge a lot of money, which you can even witness in their cultural transformation of India by making many beautiful monuments, and therefore they ignored what was essential for them to stay in power, that is deploying naval power. Similarly, Britishers institutionalized discipline through making firearms and better firearms. So that is why whenever you'll go through your modern history lectures, you'll realize that hundreds of Britishers were able to defeat army of thousands when they were employed by Indian armed forces, right? So that is how, because of tactical mastery, because of better use of weapons, Britishers were able to capture our territory. And this warfare innovations reflected deeper civilizational values and the need for making adaptations in terms of shifting political realities, and this is very important as far as today's day in age is concerned, right? Now try to solve this question in 2015. Was this article interesting? Now as a boy, I like these kind of articles which includes weapons and all. I don't know whether all of you feel the same. Please let me know. When I read this article, I was spellbound. Such a nice article, but it did not appear in the newspaper, so I picked it up from the website. Now they did not introduce gunpowder in India. So first obviously is incorrect, and you can realize option B is your right answer. The introduction of arch and dome in the region architecture was brought by Turkish in India, not Mughals. Arch and dome is very famous for in Humayun tomb, in Taj Mahal, in Biwi ka Maqbara. Any idea where Biwi ka Maqbara is? Now, where is the person who had joined this? I'm forgetting his name. Some very exotic name. Sorry, I lost his comment. Rock Dharma. Rock Dharma for you. Pomp means basically flair. Pomp means, suppose if I come wearing a gold suit or a gold shirt, that would mean I'm showing pomp. I'm basically showing off. Pomp is basically show off. Now, quickly, let us move to the last article of the day. I'll skip the Sri Narayana Dharm Paripalana. You can understand from the slide. Now, Acharya Vinoba Bhave, right? Why we are discussing Acharya Vinoba Bhave? Because on 11th of September, it was his birthday, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid his visit to, paid his respects to Acharya Vinoba Bhave. So, what was his role in India's history? Let us understand this. He was born in 1895 in Maharashtra, and he was deeply influenced by the text known as Bhagavad Gita and also the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi. So, his role in freedom struggle, that he was a close associate of Mahatma Gandhi, often regarded as his spiritual successor. Now, he participated in civilian disobedience movement and he was imprisoned multiple times. He was also a part of individual satyagraha, which the Mahatma Gandhi started before the start of Quit India movement in 1942. Individual satyagraha started in 1940. Any idea why we started with individual satyagraha instead of Quit India movement? Now, whenever you have to attack someone, or whenever if I tell you to run right now for a marathon, you know how much is a marathon? Marathon is 42.195 kilometers. Now, if I tell you to run a marathon, would you be able to sprint for 42.195 kilometers? The answer obviously is no. So you make strategy that for first few kilometers you'd run faster, then you'd run a bit slower, and towards the end you'd run again faster. So this is a kind of strategy much similar to how fighting or even attacks on a colonial rule can also happen. So you can't just keep on attacking and attacking on colonial rule. You need a time to consolidate your learning. You need a time to strategize and build your organization. And this is what separated Mahatma Gandhi from other freedom fighters. Mahatma Gandhi was very realistic in this way. Mahatma Gandhi is used to know that if I tell people to keep on fighting, it would exhaust them. So there should be a strategy where we should pick our time and then we will attack more on the British Empire. And that is why when people demanding or people were asking Mahatma Gandhi to start Quit India movement as early as 1940, he denied. He said that at that time Congress organization was not this strong. So if you start this kind of an event, it would eventually lead to bad results as against freedom of India. So he wanted some kind of a movement which promoted an individual's movement against the British, and for that he was the first satyagrahi, that is the Acharya Vinoba Bhave. He travelled across India and created awareness about his freedom of speech and expression, which was curtailed by the British Empire. Similarly, he also participated in Bhutan movement after the India's independence. He launched this movement in present-day Telangana, which was to persuade landlords to donate land to landless people. Now, Bhutan means gift of the land, and this movement spread across India, later expanded into what is known as Gram Dan and Sampatti Dan. And he collected over 4 million acres of land through. But the redistribution of this land to the poor people faced challenges, which is essentially the challenges associated with land reforms in India, right? We'll discuss land reform sometime else whenever they appear in the news. Now, what was the philosophy of Vinoba Bhave? He advocated Sarvodaya, which means welfare all. This was also the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi. He propounded the idea of ahimsa, non-violence, and he also was very famous for his simple living. So he was a very strong proponent of self-reliance, decentralization of governance, and upliftment of rural India. He also was awarded Bharat Ratna after his death in 1983. He was revered as Acharya, which was a title given to him for his moral authority and his spiritual guidance. And he passed away in 1982 in Ponara Ashram in Maharashtra. Yes, STS strategy it is called. Good, Gagan, I guess you have attended your modern history lecture. Now, can anyone let me know the correct answer to this question? I'll get out of your way. Good evening, Missy. Very early in the session. Yes, Santana, Biwi ka Maqbara is in Aurangabad. It basically is called as poor man's Taj Mahal. Option C is your right answer. It is the first, sorry, option D is your right answer. It is aimed to affirm the right of free speech against India's forced participation in the World War II, where people were demanding the Mahatma Gandhi to launch Quit India movement in 1940. He realized that time was not right, so he asked Vinoba Bhave to start individual satyagraha. And after Vinoba Bhave, many famous personalities, including Jawaharlal Nehru, etc., they started with this. So this brings an end to our today's session. Stay tuned to our channel. We'll have a special event at 7. So let us meet each other at 7. Okay. You can download the notes from this particular Telegram channel. ATS Live it is called. And you can also subscribe to it. So have a good day. We'll see each other day after tomorrow. Tomorrow I have some work at my house, so I'll be on leave. Okay. Do not worry. I'll cover the articles on Wednesday. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.